So now if I select exposure, yeah, it's a corrector. I didn't assign it. Oh, it's just a curves. So a corrector is just a curves, it looks like. This is me trying to figure out what all of this does. But it's got this little curves thing. So does this one, but I guess I added this as like a corrector. And the only thing that I'm changing is right here, this curves. So darker, blown out, darker, blown out. So that looks correct. And then if I go back to the next thing that I did, which I got all excited about, was if I have this little color rim, this little color thing around the O1, right? That means it's color corrected or adjusted. And if I select this click, go over this one, middle mouse click, copy and paste it. Oh, look at that. Now we're cooking. So we've got color corrected fire. Boom, color corrected cubes. Ooh, that looks super dark and moody, but now she's water. Which I think all we did was just, I don't know, fucking curves. I don't know what we're doing, but hey, I rebuilt it in way less time from memory, so that's fun. Shit. I don't know why I find this shit so amusing, but it is. But hey, we fully blew it up. Didn't know what happened and rebuilt it super quick. So that's awesome. That's hype.
Pretty cool, pretty cool. You know, if the source footage is fairly restrained...
Wait, hold up. I want to know that.
Let's not get into that.
Shit, sorry.
So we have the exposure control now.
Yeah,
So
now we do.
Under different conditions, I'm gonna enable this clip and then middle mouse button click on the first one to sample its color management settings. And I'm gonna do it for this one as well.
Copy grid, that's cool.
Pretty cool, pretty cool.
Control F. That's what I'm talking about, baby. Give me this. Control F. Oh my god. Look at that cube. Look at that water. Oh. I can't wait until I can recreate this. This is so cool to me. Like, the water one specifically is just so sick to be like, none of that's real. That's all computer generated. Damn. Fire too is kind of cool. The cube, this is just a beautiful scene. Like, whoever built this scene, props to them for the level of detail and beauty in this. It's just incredible. And then bam, water. Oh, and we're color correcting too. Oh, this is so much more of a fun course because I don't have to rely on my shitty laptop to render all this. I can just learn shit without having to worry about all that. It's so sick. It's so cool. And yeah, like, dude, if you don't know, like, that's a big fucking difference of non-color graded versus color graded. I mean, I deleted it. I don't know how. I don't know how to disable it, but if you go back, it looked way worse without the simple exposure correction, which is cool. But yeah. Fuck yeah, dude. That's hype. That's hype. Alright, let's try to finish this video. So, also for context, this is the tutorial we're following. It's 25 minutes. Super quick. Super quick, simple, easy. I've been doing this for an hour and 30 minutes.
The source footage is fairly restrained in terms of colors. The DaVinci's DRT is actually doing well.
Sure.
Just for comparison, here's how
I agree.
It would look.
It looks sick.
With Filmic. A close call.
Okay, so the disconnect here for me is if it looks like that in Blender and I render it frame by frame in cycles, it's not going to look like that in sRGB Filmic. Like, why do we need to do this DaVinci process? Like, is it because doing it in EXR gives you more color data, but you have to go through DaVinci and set all of this up in the front end to then have more access in post. Because my experience has been get it close in Blender, render it, and like I've never done post, especially in animations. So it's just like if it looks like this in Blender, what we're doing right now is trying to get it to look like Blender again, but by using these file types of EXR, giving us way more color data to adjust. That's my understanding. That's what I think we're doing right now. So it's like we haven't even started post-production. It's just getting our what we see in Blender to look like our rendered out frames while we're editing in DaVinci. I don't know if that's right. I have no idea what's going on. But that's my guess of what we're doing right now. I think. I don't know.
As for me, that shows that we've got it working in Resolve.
Probably.
Still, it's not perfect, don't get me wrong, but it's a very good view transform anyway. Getting a pretty similar rendition of
Filmic
colors
and
in
DaVinci?
Resolve using its built-in tools can be considered a win, I think. So you can see despite the
Wait, what'd you just say?
it's only a pretty similar Blender with Filmic. A close call. As for me, that shows that we've got it working in Resolve. Filmic's not perfect, don't get me wrong, but it's a very good view transform anyway. Getting a pretty similar rendition of colors in Resolve using its built-in tools can be considered a win, I think. So you can see despite the differences in software, this panel in Blender and this panel in Resolve can produce pretty similar looking result.
Okay. So you're saying the panel in Blender and what we've just done in Resolve do the same thing. But why not just do it in Blender and then skip the step? Is it because we lose data?
Then of course there are some extra bells and whistles in
I
Resolve,
imagine it
like
is.
the adaptation slider, which seems to be yet another way to influence the exposure.
Because the way
And
I've
then
done it.
there's this gamut mapping thing, which can be set to saturation compression, and that would limit the amount of colorfulness that the display rendered transform can output. That could be useful for handling the extremely saturated sources, for instance. There's a chance though that if you're just poking around the color space transforms for the first time, you won't need to dig that deep though.
Amen. I'm not going to then.
And finally, there are these extra OOTF or opto-optical transfer function checkboxes, forward and inverse, at the bottom of this panel. We haven't touched upon that just yet. Let me just say that the forward OOTF pretty much always needs to be checked when it comes to display transform. But as we are just trying to get a quick preview of our EXRs without really diving deep into the meaning of all the settings, we can allow ourselves to ignore these advanced settings for the time being, and return to that later in the more advanced videos. Alright, this was our first look at how color management panel in Blender and color space transform effect in Resolve work.
Okay.
How both of these systems manage the adventures of the EXR data so it turns into a beautiful image with the help of the display transform and a little bit of tone mapping, aka extra magic. Whew. So, before I snap back into urging you to enter that rabbit hole and get the full 4-hour course on color management in Resolve on our Gumroad,
Is that not what we're doing right now? Are we not doing the full color management thing?
for free, by the way, or using a good old
Okay,
pay what
I
you
take it
want
back. I think that is
model,
what we're doing.
let me show you a quick recap of the process and give you the recipe for it.
I don't need it. I fucked it up and rebuilt it myself.
Creating the filmic and AGX levels of contrast, all using that single node technique in
Oh,
Resolve.
shit, I take it back.
Not
It's like a
the
pop
true
quiz.
Filmic and AGX though, for that we'll have a separate video, just something in that ballpark.
Alright, wrap it up. Let's see if I can
I'll
follow
go
along.
really quickly this time.
Bam.
Here's an
EXR.
EXR sequence
Right.
freshly exported from Blender.
Right.
There's
Super
no
dark.
display transform just yet, so the preview shows the incorrect colors. To fix it, enter the color tab.
Uh-huh.
Make sure that
Color
the
management.
effects tab is also open,
Color
and
management.
search for the color space transform effect.
Same thing.
And
Drag it on.
Just throw it onto the correct node,
Right.
the one that is there by default. Then set the input color space to Rec
Change
709. I'm doing it by typing the first letters,
Mm-hmm.
and the input
Oh,
gamma
you
to
fucker! You should have
linear.
told me that earlier.
The output color space should also be Rec 709, and the output
sRGB?
gamma can be sRGB. And if you don't check these extra OOTF checkboxes at the bottom of this
Which
panel,
we
it will
don't.
look almost like filmic in Blender in terms of the overall contrast. Although technically it should always be on when doing display transform, I mean the forward OOTF, but never mind.
Okay.
Okay, set
Cool.
the tone mapping to DaVinci
Uh-huh,
and then
crank
up
that
the
up.
max nits
Yup.
all the way to 10K or something
Yup.
like that. Feel free to copy these settings. It will make it look almost like filmic in terms of rendering these EXR's data to screen. And it's pretty close, as you can see. The difference between filmic and the DaVinci's own DRT is fairly minimal, at least in these examples. Then to recreate the AGX levels of contrast, kind of, not the highlights, desaturation of course and all of that, but just the overall contrast, set the output gamma to gamma 2.4 instead, and
What?
turn on apply forward OOTF checkbox this time.
Oh, you fucker! You didn't teach me
Explain this,
that.
Trust me bro, game. I promise I'll explain what these settings mean in the next video.
God damn it!
So anyway, these settings should make it look a bit more similar to AGX as far as the overall contrast goes.
All right. Well, he didn't even do the exposure. You piece of shit.
Then if you need the exposure slider, just
I
like in
spoke too
Blender, add
soon.
one more corrector node before the CST, or color space transform, and move the top end of the curve left and right, or up and down to increase or decrease the exposure, or the amount of light that reaches the virtual camera sensor.
Virtual camera sensor.
Pretty cool. That was our first
That
look
was
at how
pretty
to open
cool,
and
dude.
process the OpenEXR sequences from Blender in
Wait,
the free
actually, go
version.
back.
Of, was our first look.
This is actually really fascinating to me that EXR is so much better than PNG. Like if you look, the file size alone, PNG is 4x the size of EXR, and the save time is obviously way faster. But it was interesting to learn that nobody uses EXR solely off the fact that there's no easy way to open and preview it. Is very funny to me. I don't know why, but that's very interesting.
Look at how to open and process the OpenEXR sequences from Blender in the free version of DaVinci Resolve with the help of the color space transform node. And as you can see, in this basic form, it requires just half a minute to set it all up.
Yeah, that was
Definitely
quick,
a good
dude.
Start.
I
and
mean-
I believe a good.
Yeah, it took us fucking damn near 2 hours, but... Or, no, it took us like an hour and 30 to follow along and do it the first time, and then I completely broke it, and then restarted from scratch and did it in a minute, like, using node settings, like node-based editing, or, I'm sorry, node-based color management is really cool. Because nodes is something I'm familiar with Blender, like making materials. So it's like that like step back workflow is like I kind of understand the logic here of what we're doing. So that was like the only parallel of like my knowledge that I have so far versus watching this course and understanding how to get like how things affect things. Like the node based workflow I kind of understand. Of like this does this is an effector, this you can put this there. So that was cool. I mean, 90% of this was just a totally different language to me. That's why we had to go back and rewatch everything so many times. But
First look into the subject.
I think it was cool.
This one node approach has certain disadvantages though when it comes to really wildly colorful stuff, like the synthetic EXR color sweep. Using just one node as display transform makes the extremely saturated color.
See, like shit like this is so niche of like when this is going to really affect you. Like, he pulled up this as an example. I'm assuming this is like worst case example. This is why this is cool, is because his example of like, hey, it doesn't work here, like 90% of the time, 99% of the time, that's not what you're going to be editing. So it's like, if you understand what you're producing and then see if you can adopt a new workflow to quicken it and make it faster, that's why I think it's so cool. Because I think in 90% of the work that I'm going to be doing, a one-click node-based color grading system is going to be so beneficial. So that's why I'm so excited about this course. And it's sick. It's free. I'm learning about color grading. I don't know shit about color grading. So, I mean, I was hesitant last night, but especially after today, like at work, this is so different from what I'm doing that learning this, and like, yeah, it's a lot and it's a headache, but it feels fun because it's new, it's different, it's something, like, it doesn't feel like work because I don't do it at work, if that makes sense, but I'm curious about it. That's why I'm kind of excited about this.
Collapse into the primary six, also called hateful six in Choice Abacus terminology.
I'll never
Red
remember
picks
that
yellow,
and probably
nuclear
never
cyan,
use
extreme
that.
magenta, and so on. That isn't some defect of the DaVinci stone mapping, it just requires some extra steps that we didn't take in this video. And of course, if you are watching this video and this series of videos, you want to know how to make the next step and actually start changing the colors of the source EXRs in a creative way. Not just previewing it correctly, but doing something with it.
Well,
and
let's take it step by step.
To know how to match the amazing AGX and filmic.
I don't even know what AGX is.
Not just approximate with the built-in tools, but use the real deal. I know that for a fact because that's the most frequently asked question.
Sure.
So for all of that, I actually recommend you checking out our pro color grading video.
That's what we're doing, baby. That's what we're watching.
Road. There is an adventure waiting for you, and not on the other side of the paywall, but because there is no paywall this time, but simply at the push of a button. Although, even though it is available for free, I would greatly appreciate if you supported the course.
Yes, sir.
By donating any amount that feels comfortable to you. It starts at just $0 and then goes up in increments until the shrimp's the limit. Just pick your emoji, I guess, from this list.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yes. Alright, we got through one.